Here's the thing. For everybody listening, don't make the same mistake the Bengals just did in any facet of your life.
People are going to get hurt. It's the hockey season. And if they want to make the deep run to the playoffs, they're going to need players. And Ben Hutton's a good defenseman that can help.
I don't think they will. If they don't have Anthony Davis, I'm saying it right now. If Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
I was very tempted to just put defense.
What about the Jared Cook play on the sideline? And then Mason Crosby's 55-yard field goal or something like that. That was a good one.
Come on, Austin and I've been saying this ever since Joe Burrow got injured.
I just do not see Harden putting in the same amount of effort into each game. And I honestly believe that's why he hasn't won a championship yet.
That's a perfect name. What you said, name brand players. Like, it's not the great value Target brand toilet paper or whatever. It's the Charmin Ultra Strong.
I swear we didn't script that.
Fultz is injured and he really hasn't lived up to the potential of being the number one overall pick when he was selected by the Sixers.
Like you said, Ovechkin, he's getting older. He hasn't been playing as well as I imagined. He's one of the greatest goal scorers of all time, but he hasn't started off this season as hot as I would hope.
How is Joe Burrow going to get the ball to them if his butt is already on the ground and he finally decides who to throw to?
I don't really think the Dodgers are going to make the World Series this year. I feel like they'll make it to the NLCS.
And then I want to talk about the Fernando Tatis extension because that really surprised me. Because he's so young. You see the Chiefs beefing up their O-line, and then you have the Buccaneers beefing up their defensive line.
Ingrained in the life of Tom Brady and what winning actually looks like, I think will be a very good move for Bruce Arians and this Bucs organization.
Hi, I'm Jeff Allen, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our 86th episode. Make sure to check out our previous episode where we did an NBA draft review of the first round. So here are our thoughts in that previous episode. Make sure to check out our interview series, the latest one being with the video coach for the Dallas Stars, Kelly Forbes. But today we will be doing NFL early predictions because it's training camp. So it's not way too early, but we're going to do some early predictions on how the divisions shake out, and I will let Austin start with the NFC, starting with his division, NFC North.
Yeah, so I fully anticipate this to be an interesting NFL season. We've seen a lot of turmoil on many teams, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, just to be headliners. But I feel like the Packers win the division. The second place team would be the Bears. Third place being the Vikings, and then fourth place being the Lions. The Bears, I feel like if they can do above 500 with Mitchell Trubisky, I feel like with Justin Fields and Andy Dalton, I feel like they would at least be 500, and I'm not sure if the Vikings are there. They've struggled as of late, and even though they have great wide receivers, their defense has really struggled. And in a division with teams like this, I feel like that may hinder their ability. And then for the Lions, they're a young team that still needs to prove themselves. So that's why I have them fourth.
Okay, so I'll talk about the NFC North now. I agree with you, the Packers winning the division, but I disagree with you, the Bears being second. I actually have the Vikings second. I don't believe in the Bears' offensive line, so I have them third, and then the fourth is the Lions. The Bears, I'm not sure. I believe it's a very hot seat for Matt Nagy right now and for Ryan Pace. So I feel the best thing for the Bears' future is to sit Justin Fields for the majority of the season, to let him get acclimated and let Andy Dalton be the first year QB. But I don't think that will happen because of Matt Nagy's seat being super hot. So I think maybe after the third week, I see Matt Nagy turning to Justin Fields and hurting his development. And I don't believe in their offensive line with helping Andy Dalton. That's why I don't believe he succeeds, because he does well with a good offensive line, but the Bears don't have a good offensive line, and their defense will do well. So that's why I give the edge to the Vikings in the second seed for their Kirk Cousins being there. They still don't have a good offensive line, but I trust in Kirk Cousins more than I do with Andy Dalton, and I also believe more in their run game as that is headlined by, oh my, I'm forgetting his name. They also have Kellen Mond, so he might come in, but their running game is headlined by Dalvin Cook, while the Bears don't have as strong as a run game as the Vikings. So, and I believe more in head coach. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name. What can you help
Mike
me out,
Zimmer.
Austin?
Zimmer.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer, more than Matt Nagy. So now I think we can move on to the NFC South, where I'll let you go first again.
Yeah, so the NFC South, I don't feel like is going to be close at the very top, but towards the middle, I do think the last three teams in the division will be in the running for second place. So I have the Bucks obviously getting first, Panthers surprisingly at second. I feel like with a healthy Christian McCaffrey and Sam Darnold, I feel like they could surprise some people. Saints at third and Falcons at fourth.
That is quite a list. I do agree with you on the top is pretty easy. It's the Bucks as they retain all their starters from their Super Bowl run. And given how last year was, that just shows how incredible Tom Brady was easily able to bond with teammates. And since that bond is already strong, I think that leads them to an incredible season with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Fournette. So I have him number one, but I have number two to the Saints. I do agree the Panthers could surprise some people, but I'm going to err on the side of caution and still ride with Sean Payton, as I have more faith in his QBs in Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill than the Panthers experiment at QB with Sam Darnold. And I'm not sure about Christian McCaffrey's health, but I do think their defense is going to play really well. And if the offense with Sam Darnold works out, then they could make second. But I still give the edge to the Saints just because of previous experience. So Panthers at third, and then Falcons at four. They're in a really tough position. You trade Julio, but you still have Matt Ryan, and you don't select the QB, but you select the tight end Kyle Pitts. So it will be, but then you have their defense, which is still not good. So given that track record, and I just have them at the bottom four. But now we can get to my division, and I'll let you talk about the NFC East.
Yeah. Many people might think that there's not a obvious number one, but for me, there definitely is, and I would be shocked if this team doesn't get number one. Kevin, do you know who I'm going to pick number one?
I'd be surprised if you pick the Cowboys. I'm going to say Washington.
I did pick Washington. I have Washington as the one seed in the NFC East. I feel like their defense is way too good right now to be stopped. Their D line is the best in football, and Ryan Fitzpatrick's gone on magical runs before. We saw him with the Dolphins last year. I feel like if they kept him in for the entire season, they would have had a better chance of making the playoffs. But they obviously went with Tua to develop him more. But um, I mean, I would be surprised if they don't win the division. And then we go Cowboys at 2. I feel like with Dak Prescott, they're at least the second best team in this division. Um, Next, I have Giants. I like what the Giants are doing, picking up Kenny Galladay. And I feel like their defense is improving. While it's young, it's improving. And then fourth, that leaves the Eagles. I'm not that confident in Jalen Hurts right now, and he needs to prove me wrong. And their defense is still lackluster at best, without, especially if Fletcher Cox get hurt. So that's my ranking.
You and I are 4 for 4. I agree with all those rankings because those are my rankings. I agree with Washington winning the division because of Fitzpatrick. Given his recent track record, he has played well at QB, but it could be an off season for him. But I also think they win it just because of the Cowboys' inadequacies, especially on defense. Even though they did sign Malik Cooker, but he has had injury problems in the past. And then Giants, same reason as you. I'm not sure about how Daniel Jones is, and Saquon Barkley's health is another reason that I could see him falling to 4, but I have him at 3 due to the Eagles, I'm not really sure what they're doing. You have Devontae Smith, but they've lost a lot of key contributors that helped them so far in their run to the Super Bowl. But Austin, so since we have Washington, they won it last year and they would win it again. What was the last year the NFC East had repeat champions for their division?
Was it 2011, 2010,
No.
2012, 2013,
No.
2011, 2012?
Nope.
Am I close or am I far off?
You're far off.
Far off
You
earlier or later?
later being more recent or farther away?
Later being farther away.
You later. What was your
Oh,
first
okay.
guess? I just want to
My
double
first
check
guess
again.
was 10, 11.
Okay, yeah, that's not. Yeah.
05,
So
06?
close.
06 or 7?
Farther away.
04, 05?
Yeah, 04.
04 and then 2005?
well,
or 03
no,
and 04?
03, 04.
Okay, and
So
that
in
would be the
03,
Eagles?
yes.
Okay, yeah, that was...
And then 05 is Giants, and then there hasn't been a repeat champ since.
06 was the Cowboys?
No, Eagles.
Eagles and then Cowboys?
Yes. So it's been 16 years of no repeat champs in the NFC East. But with how our predictions are shaping up, this would end this
during
16-year
that
run.
time, during that time, there's still been 3 championships by this division. So it's interesting to see that they can still win a championship without being the top seed in their division. Like the Giants in 2007 will obviously win a championship, but weren't headlining the division going into the playoffs.
Yeah. Then also 11, they did win it, and then same thing with the Eagles when they did win it. But they had lost. Actually, 17. I'm thinking of 17. When the Eagles did win it, but they had lost Carson Wentz. So a lot of people doubted them, but they still won it. Now we get to the final NFC division, which is the NFC West. I'll let you talk about this. I don't think we're going to agree on this.
We'll find out. Obviously, as you guys know, we never look at each other's predictions just for the incitement during the prediction. But I think there's a chance. If you don't think we're gonna be the same, I think there's a chance we will be the same. I have Rams at 1, 49ers at 2, Seahawks at 3, Cardinals at 4. I feel like the Rams, especially with their defense, even though they've lost some key pieces on the D line, is still going to be elite. Their O line's still good, and with Matthew Stafford and the rest of their wide receiving core, especially with their running backs doing well, I wouldn't be surprised if they win this division. The 49ers, I think, will have a rebound year. The Seahawks, I think, will fall a little bit. At the end of last season, we felt that teams started knowing their playbook, and if they don't change things up and get more run game, I'm worried about them. And then the Cardinals, I don't feel like they even contend for the number 1 seed.
So how would you say when we agree? Do we have to have the same division winner or just two teams in the same spot?
I would say 2 teams. If we have 2 teams in the same spot, I feel like that's good enough for me. I'd say that we're close enough.
I was wrong. You and I had Seahawks and Cardinals in the same place. I think the Cardinals are at the bottom because of Cliff Kingsbury, even though they have some great players, but I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is the right coach for the Cardinals. They also have offensive line problems. Same with the Seahawks. And due to the rise of the Rams, I have them at second. But I believe that the 49ers rebound and they have that terrific defensive line that they did when they went to the Super Bowl, even though they are missing Solomon Thomas, but he wasn't a huge headliner. The big person I'm thinking of is Nick Bosa. And then Eric Armstead, just an incredible defensive line. I am worried about their secondary, but I think with a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo, and maybe we see Trey Lance, but I see Jimmy Garoppolo with George Kittle. So I have them winning the division, and I think it takes a lot more time for Matthew Stafford to learn the playbook for the Rams. And they did lose Cam Ayers to an injury, so that's going to hurt their run game as well. So that concludes our NFC division. Now let's move over to the AFC and talk about the AFC North. Austin, who do you have winning the division?
Yeah, so in the AFC North, I feel like this is going to be probably the most stacked division. Uh, I feel like this division is going to hurt themselves very bad. And when we go to our playoff predictions, our playoff picture, I feel like this division will be the reason why not everyone in the division makes the playoffs. Because three wildcard teams, three teams in the same, all of the teams in the same division could make the playoffs, which is really crazy. But I feel like because of how good the division is, we'll see teams not make the playoffs because of their division. And I have Steelers headlining the division. I feel like they win the division. We've seen Ben Roethlisberger slim down, and I feel like a revenge tour is necessary, especially with how that game turned out against the Browns. I have the Browns second in the division. I love what they did in the offseason, picking up Jadeveon Clowney, and I feel like they're on the rise, especially with their own line being so good. And then we obviously have the Ravens at third. I'm still worried about their wide receiver core, and Lamar Jackson's a great QB, but without a wide receiver core, it's hard for a QB to win many games. And then the Bengals at 4 because they didn't draft Panay Sewell.
I was surprised with who you picked number 1 for winning the division, the Steelers, because I have the Browns winning it. I think Ben Roethlisberger takes another step back because he's not as healthy as another older QB. I don't think Ben Roethlisberger has a B7 thing. I think he's kind of just like, I'm going to eat what I want. There's no TB12 method, like there is a B7 method in Ben Roethlisberger's case. That doesn't exist. You have the TB12 method. So that's why I think, due to him not prioritizing health in his younger years, that's why I think Ben Roethlisberger is taking a step back. And I also believe in the rise of the Browns. I think Baker takes another step. They also have made some key additions to that defense. Jadeveon Clowney to pair with Myles Garrett. I also believe that they still have Olivier Vernon on their team as well. So he's actually a free agent. So Jadeveon Clowney takes the place of Olivier Vernon, but that's quite a pairing. And they also made some key moves to get the defense, as I believe they snagged the Notre Dame linebacker, Jeremiah
Owusu-Koramoah, yeah.
Okay. So that's a key addition to help with their defense. They also made some key additions in the draft with their secondary. So that's why I think they won the division. So now I go to the second, where I have the Ravens. I was really tempted to have the Steelers, but I believe in the Ravens, even though the addition of Sammy Watkins doesn't really secure me, make me feel better about the wide receiver position. Also, you can't forget, back to my Browns points, they snagged the cornerback Greg Newsome in the first round, and they snagged Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah in the second round. So that's another key thing. But now Ravens, I still believe in their defense, so I have them getting second. Then the Steelers, I have at third, just because of Ben Roethlisberger, even though they do have a great new running back in their backfield, but they also have the new center. So that's why I don't think the addition of Najee Harris really helps them that much because of the regression of Ben Roethlisberger. Then the Bengals, just because it's a tough division, and I think they part ways with their coach this year. And they don't really have a great offensive line, as you and I have talked about a lot in the past. But now let's move on to the AFC South. Who do you have winning the division?
I have the Titans. I feel like the Titans win the division, with the Colts being second. I don't really trust the Colts right now. This may be surprising. I have the Texans at third. I feel like with Tyrod Taylor they still have enough pieces to win more games than the Jaguars, and I feel like I'm worried about Trevor Lawrence doing too much his rookie season and possibly getting himself hurt. And while I don't want that to happen, I see that as a possibility, and so I have the Jaguars at fourth.
That is very surprising and interesting to me because due to Deshaun Watson off the field concerns, that's a problem with the Texans. But also, Texans, to me, calling them rebuilding is a compliment. I think they're a dumpster fire. You say you're not trading Deshaun Watson, and then you have other stuff. But I just want to talk about on the field. You say you're not trading Deshaun Watson. He's our QB. Then with the first pick you have, which was the 4th round, I think they select a QB from Stanford.
David Mills.
And yeah, David Mills. So that's the number one guy you want. So you're shown, and then you sign Tyrod Taylor. That's not a bad thing. But then you have a bunch of running backs. You just sign. They still have David Johnson, and they just sign the running back from the Broncos. Well, I forget the names.
Royce Freeman. Was it Royce Freeman?
No, I was thinking of the guy they paired with Ingram. No, not Ingram. Gordon, Melvin Gordon.
Philip Lindsay.
Yeah, Philip Lindsay. They signed him too, and then their defense. So I have them at the bottom, just because they're a dumpster fire. Jacksonville, I think they have made some key plays. You do offer an excellent point, though, with Trevor Lawrence trying to do too much, because he did try to do too much in his second year, just coming off the national championship win. Then I have the Colts at 2. And here's an interesting thing that I just found when looking at the quarterback depth chart. Because Carson Wentz is out 5 to 12 weeks, and that's still not a sure thing. Who is the backup QB right now for the Colts, Austin?
The backup QB for the Colts, is it what's his name? He went to Washington. Is it not Jake Fromm? Is it not the guy that went to Washington that used to go to Georgia? Is that not him?
No, Jake Fromm is on the Bills, but
that's not the guy I'm talking about. Then it's the guy that went to Washington.
You are very correct. It's Jacob Eason, who went to Washington,
Yes.
who transferred from Georgia.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's just wrong name. I remember that he went to Georgia and then to Washington, but I couldn't remember his name. And
I'm not going to blame
close
you
enough.
for not knowing someone's name. I've had like 5 instances in this episode. So Jacob Eason, then Sam Ehlinger. So not a proven NFL QB. Like, I'm not saying they can be good. Well, yeah, neither of them. Maybe they make a trade for Nick Foles. Who knows? Because
if I were them, I would not make a trade, because I feel like if you make a trade, that signals to Carson Wentz that his time with the Colts is already done, or at least attempting to be. Because if they trade for Nick Foles, and I feel like Nick Foles was the best QB with the Bears last year, and it was only because of the Bears O-line that he was bad, because he's not fast, so he needs a good O-line. The Eagles had that, and that's why he was a Pro Bowler, obviously, in 2013, and a Super Bowl champion in 2017. But if they pick up Foles with that O-line, I feel like Foles will do really good, and they will have to choose between Carson Wentz and Foles. And that's not a situation where you want to put Carson Wentz right after you trade him when you're trying to make him the franchise guy. I feel like you try to run it with both of these QBs. You try it with Eason, then you try it with Ehlinger. I feel like Ehlinger is underrated, because I feel like a running QB. I feel like Ehlinger could be Taysom Hill without like the other positions, because Ehlinger's a bigger guy, he's fast, and he can run. I'm not too sure about his arm, which is obviously the most important part of being a QB, but I feel like you could win some games with Ehlinger if your defense steps up, and we know the Colts defense is really good. So I feel like I try it with Eason first, and then Ehlinger, and then try to not trade for a QB unless it's absolutely necessary.
Really, I disagree with you here, because I think you could trade for Nick Foles, maybe a 6th rounder. because he's the third guy on the depth chart. The Bears are paying him big money. He's had a dead cap of 14 million this season. And I think the Colts have put themselves into where we want to be in contention for a Super Bowl. So I think why not, if it were, because you have such a great defense and you had such a great year last year on defense, but offense still leave more to desired. You have a potential out with Nick Foles, so why not just take him and then take that out this next year, and then Carson Wentz is still your guy.
What happens if he does not lose? Because their O line's still good and they have the talent on their defense. I don't know if they. Nick Foles is good to not turn the ball over. We saw that in 2013 when he had 27 touchdowns and 2 picks. He's good at keeping the ball out of the other team's hands, and that's a big reason why they won the championship. As we saw, Tom Brady turn over the ball one too many times, and I don't blame him. He was sacked, but again, not turning over the ball is essential. And Nick Foles, not under pressure, is very good at keeping the ball away from the defense. And I would not be surprised, especially in the division they're in, if he goes 6-2 in the 8 weeks that he starts. If he is out 12, if Carson Wentz is out 12 weeks. So if that happens, I don't know, because I would keep Nick Foles in that situation, and then Carson Wentz is back in the same loop.
I would keep him in the same position, but I think it's a little bit different than Jalen Hurts taking over, because it was like, hey, we just signed you his contract, but we're going to put this guy in. Where the Colts, it's like, hey, we're trying to win, and he's just the right guy right now. Don't worry, you're still our guy. And I think Frank Reich could do a much better job than what the Eagles coach did. Why am I forgetting his name? Doug Peterson. I think he mishandled that situation, which led to Carson Wentz kind of getting into his own head, where I think Frank Reich has displayed how he has accepted hardships before, just given how he was accepted this coaching staff after the oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the offensive coordinator, John McDaniels, from
Josh
the
McDaniels.
Patriots. Yeah, Josh McDaniels, after he backed out and then Frank Reich was taken in, and now he dealt with hardship in his first season. So I think he would do a much better job conveying to Carson, you're still our guy. Take as much time to use you need. Learn the playbook, and then get to know everyone and just root for the guy. So I think he would do a much better job with the Colts. But they still haven't traded for Nick Foles, so they don't have a good job. What else do you got to add?
I have a question for you, Kevin. If they go 6-2, hypothetically, with Nick Foles as a QB, then Carson Wentz is back week 9. Are you starting Carson Wentz if he's 100%
No,
healthy?
I thought I agree. I agree. If it's 6-2, you go with Nick Foles.
And then
you go with the
when
hot
do you
hand.
go back to Carson? Because if you are saying that Nick Foles is a QB when Carson Wentz is fully healthy, then he has to be for the rest of the season unless injury or terribleness occurs. I feel like
Yeah.
maybe what happens is that they keep Nick Foles as the guy, because if he excels, I don't see a reason why you'd go to Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is making more money than him. I don't understand why they wouldn't just trade him away if Nick Foles starts doing really well. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does, because like I said, Nick Foles under a great O-line is an above average QB that can get you into the playoffs. And I feel like he would do that with the Colts.
Well, I think the timetable with how many more years you left have of Nick Foles is why you go back to Carson Wentz the next year, or when Nick Foles falters. I think Frank Reich, like, I agree. Whoever has the hotter hand, you stay with Nick Foles. You don't want to mess it up. You just tell Carson Wentz, this is the position we're in. Don't worry, which is another thing. Like, he's a great X's and O's coach, but he has dealt with hardship before. So I think dealing with this, he could convey to Carson, just wait for your time, keep getting better, make sure you're fully healthy, and learn the playbook So for next season, maybe the Colts see Carson Wentz regain his form, his MVP form in 2017. So I think if you don't put too much pressure on Carson Wentz, that's the best thing for him. And I think this could be a huge pressure if he has to come back from an injury and lead his team to the Super Bowl, which I think Colts fans want. So I think, but they haven't traded for Nick Foles. And given your point, they probably don't, but I think it would be the better thing to do if you want to get to the Super Bowl this year and you don't have a proven backup QB. And I think you could get Nick Foles for cheap. And the Bears could cut Nick Foles. I doubt that, but I think you can make a deal like, hey, we'll send you a 7th rounder or something. But I think Titans, I'm worried about defense, but their offense looks incredible on paper. With Ryan Tannehill having a great weapon in Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, then you have Derrick Henry. You also got Mike Vrabel, who I think he's no longer an underrated coach, right?
No, I
Or
wouldn't say so. I would not
okay.
say so. After making the
And
playoffs, obviously, in all of his seasons, I think, and then obviously making the AFC Championship, I don't think anyone thinks he's a bad coach.
okay. And then Ryan Tannehill, would it be bad to say he's a dark horse MVP candidate, or is he just could you be a potential MVP candidate
I think he's
because he has such
definitely,
good weapons?
yeah, I was about to say, yeah, he definitely has enough weapons to do it. I feel like Anthony Ferkser will have a blow up season. Ferkser obviously now the number 1 tight end because Johnny Smith went to the Patriots. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Harvard product has a great season. And as you mentioned, I feel like Julio Jones is the most important free agency move this season. I know he was traded, not picked up in free agency, but it was during the free agency period, so I'm going to count it as one. And the reason why is not because he just adds a piece to the offense as a wide receiver weapon, as a weapon in the red zone, but because you can pass the ball more now. You can take the ball out of the hands of Derrick Henry and hopefully extend his career longer by not overusing him. And so I feel like Julio Jones was an essential pickup that I think accelerates the Titans into Super Bowl contention.
It's also not that expensive of a pickup for Julio. It was a 2022 second round pick and a 4th in 2023 when and the Falcons sent over a 2023 6th round pick. A 2nd round pick, mostly you can hit on a 4th round pick. Dak Prescott is a great example, but like a 1st round pick, I think would have been the asking price, and no one wanted to pay that. Is very surprising to me, and I'm surprised not more teams didn't jump on this. I was thinking Packers if they wanted, if they're Rodgers and oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Your great wide receiver,
Davante Adams.
Yes, Davante Adams. Oh, man, it's I don't know why I think I'm
You're struggling today.
Well, yeah, I think I'm thinking of the wrong league. I'm stuck in NBA terms and NHL. It's hard things to juggle. But why not? If it's just a 2nd round pick and a 4th rounder, why not for the Packers? If it's looking like it's the last dance, I like to call it I think it should be called last chance, not last dance. Why not pair Julio Jones up with Davante Adams? But it didn't happen. The Titans got it, so it looks to be a great pickup, but health of Julio could be a problem. But if he is healthy, it could be a very dangerous offense for what you mentioned. Any more thoughts before we move on to the AFC East?
No, but it's going to be a great season for Julio, I expect. He doesn't have to, he's not the number 1 wide receiver on this team, and that really helps him out.
Not the number 1?
No, A.J. Brown is better than Julio right now. Especially with Julio's health issues, I would say that A.J. Brown is a better wide receiver than Julio Jones today.
Okay, being the main thing being availability.
And skill. AJ Brown is really, really strong for a wide receiver, and he's fast. And Julio Jones' injury concerns, I think, also affects his play, as I don't think he's going to be as risky um, for fear of injury. So I feel like AJ Brown is a better wide receiver today than Julio Jones is.
Okay, you can move on. I still would defer to Julio, but we can move on.
So yeah, the next division we have is the AFC East. So I have the Bills winning the division. I don't feel like that's all that hard of a pick. The Bills obviously picked up Emmanuel Sanders and continue to accelerate uh, their rise to the top. Second, I have the Patriots. Next, I have the Dolphins. Then the Jets. I feel like the Dolphins will take a step back because I don't know if Tua is fully ready to take the starting job still. And if he's not prepared, the Dolphins are also forced to move Xavier Howard now as he's asked for a trade, and everything's falling apart kind of for the Dolphins, even though I still see them being on the rise in future years. So I have the Dolphins being third, Patriots second, Bills first, and then obviously the Jets are fourth. And I don't feel like that was a hard pick, even though they did get a new head coach.
Something must be us agreeing on all the East teams because that's my same exact hierarchy as well. Bills, Patriots, Dolphins, Jets. Same reason for the Dolphins at third. And just the spending spree that Coach Belichick went on is uncharacteristic of Bill Belichick. So you get Judon, you get Henry, you get Jonnu Smith. It's you have to expect one of the coaches, the greatest coaches of all time, having something under his sleeve. You also have Bourne. You get Mac Jones, who I think could middle of the season take over for Cam Newton, or you keep Cam Newton, or you move Cam Newton to a Taysom Hill role, as he is a great runner. They did lose Joe Thuney to the Chiefs, but I think I just defer because it's something uncharacteristic of Belichick. So I expect big things, but still the Bills. I think my MVP right now is Josh Allen. But what else you got to say?
So I think a big part of this is the fact that the Patriots, who had lost so many players during the opt out, are getting those players back. Now that Dante Hightower's on that defense, I feel like they will have a great chance of being the best defensive team in the league again. Obviously, right now I think it's Washington, but I feel like there's a great chance that the Patriots take that mantle. And with a great defense and the greatest defensive head coach, I don't feel like there's a way that they're not at least second in the division.
Yeah, I don't see the Bills losing, but if a team is going to take the crown and beat the Patriots, but I think we can move on to the AFC West. Who do you got winning the division?
So the AFC West, I feel like is an interesting division because the Chargers obviously let go of Anthony Lynn and have a new head coach now. So I have the Chiefs getting the one seed, which I don't think is all that hard to choose. Then I have the Chargers at 2, Raiders at 3, and Broncos at 4. This is one of the easier divisions for me to choose, but it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the Raiders can make progress, or if they just stay in the same place.
So let me just make sure I heard you correctly. Raiders at 3, Broncos at 4. Okay, I disagree with you on those two things. I got Chiefs and Chargers. I do agree with you, Anthony Lynn being let go, and but hopefully the Chargers are hoping that their new head coach, um, the defensive coordinator from the Rams, I'm looking it up right now. Oh he can help that Brendan Staley. He can help develop, and they get Joey Bosa back and Derwin James. They also got a great steal in the second round with the cornerback. I'm thinking I can. It's tough right now for me in naming players. Um, it's his dad played in the NFL.
Oh. What's his name?
Oh, Asante
Uh,
Samuel Jr. I
yeah,
got it.
yeah, yeah.
So he's a key addition, especially with dealing with Tyreek Hill. But I still, with what the Chiefs did, rebuilding that offensive line, which looked shaky, which looked very bad. in the Super Bowl and making it one of the best. Yeah, it's not the best because I think you still defer to the best being the Bucks offensive line. And you haven't seen this offensive line playing a game together.
Yeah, I think that's the
So,
biggest part.
yeah, because Jeff Allen has talked about how um, gelling with his offensive line has really helped. Make sure to check out that interview. He's actually also talked about this on his podcast, which he announced on our interview as well. So that's a key thing. But I still am winning the division. I have Broncos at 3 just because I don't believe that much in the Raiders, and I believe more in the Broncos defense than offense. If they had not just offense, just QB, maybe that's a team that makes a play from Nick Foles. Because I think, but they don't have a good offensive line. So, and they just trade Teddy Bridgewater. So that's a big question mark. But if they get good quarterback play, and by good quarterback play, just no turnovers, they could skyrocket up in the standings. But then the Raiders, I'm not really sure. And I give the edge to the Broncos just because of their defense with Bradley Chubb and a returning Von Miller. Any thoughts before you move on to the rankings or the playoff picture?
Nope. It's going to be an interesting year for all those teams, especially Teddy Bridgewater, who needs to prove himself after having a mediocre year with the Panthers.
Yeah, it's very true. And then the Panthers, all very young defense. And that's a key thing, but I'll let you say your playoff picture for the NFC.
So at 1, I have the Packers. I feel like Aaron Rodgers will be motivated. 2, I have the Rams. I feel like the Rams and Matthew Stafford are a team to beat right now. 3, I have the Bucks. 4, I have Washington football team. 5, I have the 49ers. 6, I have the Seahawks. 7, I have the Cowboys.
There's a lot. Okay, so you have Packers at 1. Okay.
I do.
But then at 2 you have the Rams.
I do.
And then 3 you have the Bucks.
I do.
I think Tom Brady's seeing a knife in his back from you.
And I can't say that because I was the guy who picked Tom Brady throughout the playoffs, unlike the other person in this.
Well, yeah, but like
conversation.
still, like you're talking about Tom Brady, so I'm like, you're at least gonna have him at 1. Then you don't have him at 1. Then you don't even have him at 2.
Now, Tom Brady recently, especially with his recent championships, has been known as a guy that doesn't really get the 1 seed all that often. I know he's only gets the top 2 seed, but now that it only matters to get a 1 seed, I feel like he'll take a step back during the regular season, just make sure that he gets home playoffs for the first round. And obviously, as a 2 seed plays in the first round, it's hard to get a 1 seed, especially in this conference. And I feel like the Packers will take advantage of that. But it's going to be really hard. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if any of the top 3 teams got the 1 seed. I would be surprised if Washington did. But I'm ready to hear yours because I feel like you disagree with mine a lot. So I'm interested to see yours.
Because of this being the same amount of starters and with a new rookie class, I have the Bucks. I think they're going to be insane this regular season and this playoff season and the playoffs. So I have them going to number 1. So I have them again number 1 seed. Then number 2 seed, I have the Packers. And then I have the 49ers with the 3rd, and then Washington at 4. I have Rams at 5, Seahawks at 6, and then Saints at 7. And I think Washington, I agree, they're not going to be pretty high up because I think they squeak by. So I think it's going to be similar, but not to the extent of what we saw the NFC East last year. I think it's going to be tough. But the team, if you took the teams out of that division, they'd be terrible in all the other divisions. So that's why I don't see the Cowboys at 7. And I would be happy if the Cowboys make it, but given how Jerry Jones likes to play on the heartstrings of Cowboys fans, I don't expect much from the Cowboys, but I would be really excited. And but I don't have them making the playoffs, and I still give that edge to the Saints at 7. So now I think we can move over to the AFC.
I would be surprised if you don't agree with the number one seed, even though it may not be the greatest pick in the world. I have the Bills at 1. I have the Chiefs at 2. I have the Steelers at 3. I have the Titans at 4. I have the Chargers at 5. The Browns at 6 and the Patriots at 7. Yes, that means that the Ravens missed the playoffs. The Colts missed the playoffs. So, and same with the Dolphins, who were also close to making the playoffs last year.
You got me nervous when you talked about the number one seed in the AFC, but I agree. I have the Bills
Yeah.
because of Emmanuel Sanders, and I think they're going to have a lot more to prove. And because of the offensive line gelling with the Chiefs, that's why I think they have a little bit of a slow start. So that's why I have them at number 2. Then number 3, I have the Titans, given due to their great offense. Um, and then I have Browns at 4, Patriots at 5, Chargers at 6, and then Ravens at 7. So I do agree the Colts missed the playoffs, but I also have the Steelers missing the playoffs. So we disagree a little bit there, but a little bit more concrete on our top 2 than the NFC. Any more thoughts before we end it?
Yeah, I was expecting, like I said before, that you were going to have the same 1 seed. I feel like with the Bills, we're very high on them last season, and that only continues this year as they picked up Emmanuel Sanders, and also that's a whole another year with their O line. So I feel like they definitely are the best team in the AFC and are probably the team to beat.
I disagree with you there. They're not the team to beat in the AFC. I think the Chiefs still maintain that title, but I think kind of like how you were talking about Tom Brady and him taking like an easy regular season, I think that's what the Chiefs do. And they try to fix some things just for the playoffs. And the key thing about the Chiefs and the Bills, you and I both had Eric Bieniemy as I think our top coaching candidate, or I think I'm correct on that.
Close. I think that's what we did. Yeah, I think that's what we said.
And then Brian DeBall, I think, was an underrated coaching candidate. And they both remain as the offense coordinator. And I think since Brian DeBall stays with the Bills, that's why I see Josh Allen having an MVP season. And then Eric Bieniemy just maintaining quite a track record. It's amazing to me that he's not a head coach yet. And so I think there will be 2 hot names once again in the coaching market near the end of the season. So that's why I think the Bills also go to a hot off start, especially with them adding Emmanuel Sanders. That's quite a tandem. Another year of Stephon Diggs with Josh Allen. What else do you got to add?
So I want to ask you, and I'll say mine right after. What is your Super Bowl prediction and winners? I know we did not write this down, but I think I may have changed mine since the last Super Bowl. So I'm interested to see what are your Super Bowl prediction, like who plays, and your winner.
I think mine has changed. I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I'm going back to last year's, hopefully a more competitive one, Buccaneers versus Chiefs.
Winner
Just
being
because of what the Chiefs did with the offensive line and still the Bucks maintaining their 22 starters, which is a key thing and something rare we have seen. What's your pick?
why? Who wins yours? You have Bucks versus Chiefs. Your winner being
I think I'll go Chiefs. I think there's a revenge in the Chiefs. And just seeing what they did and how methodically they were, like, we are going to make this a strength. I think, even though I'm going to bet against Tom Brady again, but I'm going to believe in Patrick Mahomes. What about you?
so. Tom Brady is historically not the greatest in odd years. He's won a championship in 2014, 16, 18, 20. I don't think he wins in 21. I don't even have him making the final. I have Rams versus Bills, with the Rams winning the championship. I feel like the Rams this year is their year, and the Bills, I feel like, take advantage of the Chiefs going back to back years to the Super Bowl. That takes a lot of toll on your body, and I don't think the Chiefs go 3 straight years.
So you're going against Tom Brady. So now I can say there's a knife in Tom Brady's back. Because I felt a little bad, but now, like, I'm sure you were going to have Tom Brady.
I'm just using stats as you know. He's won 2014, 16, 18, 20, Tom Brady's not the greatest in back-to-back years, uh, especially because it takes such a toll on your body. And that's another reason why I don't think the Chiefs do it this year. I know that Tom Brady will come back next year uh, and probably win another one, but that's not this year. So I'm worried about 2022. If the Packers don't win it this year, I don't think they will win it sooner rather than later. But I feel like Tom Brady maybe in 2022 comes back, wins another championship, and then retires. But I don't see him doing it this year, especially with how he's performed in years after he's won a Super Bowl. Obviously, he went back in 2017, but I feel like the toll, we could see it on the entire Patriots roster. And so him bringing back everybody was on that team last year. And while I feel like they'll have an inspirational season, one where they're trying to make it, I just don't know if they do.
That's quite a change. Since you talked about the Packers, this is the first time we're talking about it. I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions about the Packers because I'm very confused. Okay, so, well, this one's already been answered. The quarterback of the future is definitely Jordan Love because this is Rodgers' this is final year or whatever, due to the salary cap changes. So that's true, right?
Yes, the quarterback of the future is Jordan Love. To answer your question.
Okay, and then why re-sign Aaron Jones when you drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round?
I feel like the tandem of Jones and Dillon will be scary, and having two running backs I think is essential. As we saw with many championship teams recently, they have two running backs. Obviously, with the Bucs last year, they had two running backs, Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, who both performed pretty well in the playoffs.
Okay. I think you could have snagged one in the fourth round, but we'll move on to that. Why give Aaron Rodgers just a 1 year? Because I believed it was going to be a much easier to trade him next year with the cap possibly going up. So why move it to just a 1 year deal, basically?
To show him that we don't want to trade him, to prove to him, hey, we don't want to trade you. We want you to come back this season, and we're signing you to a 1 year deal. So if you want to leave, you can, but we're not going to trade you. It's us putting our foot on the ground, saying you have control of your future now, but we don't want to trade you. We never want to trade you, and we're giving you the option to leave, but we would love to have you back. It's a conscious thing saying we're never going to trade you, and we want you back. We value you as our QB, and if you want to come back after this season, we'd be delighted to bring you back. But it's your choice now.
So how you answer that question, you think if Rodgers comes back, they sign him again? They don't just go, it's Jordan Love time in Green Bay?
Yes, unless he has a terrible season, I don't understand why we wouldn't re-sign him. The problem with Brett Favre is Brett Favre is starting to throw more picks, getting sacked more. I feel like we would probably sign him to a 1 or 2 year deal with Aaron Rodgers and guarantee that he at least has a quality chance of the next 3 seasons, if that does occur, to win a championship.
Well, I think we'll end it there with that. I think that answers our questions. Make sure to check out our next episode where we will be talking about the MLB trade deadline. I haven't even looked. I'm a little upset about one trade, so make sure to check out our next episode to hear what I'm talking about. Make sure to check out interviews, Jeff Allen I mentioned, especially, and look at the most recent one, Kelly Forbes. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.